Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again, and welcome to The Roads with Bo. Today is January 28th, 2024, and this is episode 23 of The Roads Not Taken, a weekly series where we go through the previous week's events and talk about news that was unreported, underreported, didn't have context, or just didn't get the attention I deserve, or I thought it was interesting, something along those lines. At the end, we go through a Q&A. Normally, I don't actually know if there's one at the end of this, so we'll find out. Okay, so starting off, as we normally do, with foreign policy. All right, multiple nations, including the U.S., are pausing funding over allegations that 12 employees with UNRWA were involved in the October 7 attacks. Okay, if you don't know what that is the UN organization that handles relief, humanitarian efforts, stuff like that in Gaza and the West Bank. This will likely exacerbate an already untenable situation when it comes to humanitarian efforts in Gaza. It's important to understand that organization has thousands of employees. 12 being involved, it's not impossible. I'm sure there are some people who are going to say that didn't happen. It very well might have. I don't know that you can link the activities of the employees to the activities of the organization, though. That seems like a stretch to me, to be honest. I would need to see some very convincing evidence. Okay. Opinions on the ICJ ruling are flying all over the place. Two things to understand. The ICJ did not order a ceasefire. It did not go as far as it could have in a lot of ways. But as we talked about numerous times over on the other channel, it also doesn't matter. The ICJ does not have an enforcement mechanism. Okay? An Israeli official was quoted as saying, "Haig schmeig," like it doesn't matter. Which, I mean, that's not an attitude that I think is good, and I'm kind of surprised it was expressed publicly, but it's also not wrong. The ICJ does not have a lot of power. In related news, the UN Security Council will eventually discuss the ICJ ruling and consider making it actually matter, but refer to those videos on applied international law and how that is likely to play out. Okay, moving on to U.S. news. The NSA, the National Security Agency, is buying data on American internet usage. This is probably going to turn into a larger story, and there's a bit of nuance to this one, because I talked to some privacy experts, and this is what I found out. What this story is about is something called net flow. Okay? As far as the privacy experts I talked to, this doesn't matter. This is not a big deal at all. It is totally not something to worry about that the NSA has this, even if it's yours. But, and this is the big but, it is symptomatic of a larger issue both with the intelligence community and law enforcement when it comes to them buying things that they should really need a warrant to get. So it's one of those things where what the story is likely to focus on is kind of undercutting what is a real issue. Okay. Peter Navarro was sentenced to 4 months for contempt. Texas is still engaging in a meaningless political stunt down on the border. Now, eventually, the perception and the far-right rhetoric might actually create a dangerous situation because there are right-wing groups traveling to the area in hopes of confrontation with the federal government. Meanwhile, the Trump faction of the GOP is also declining to support the toughest border security legislation in decades. Why? Because they need the issue to scare and manipulate their base during the 2024 election. That's right, folks. Trump is anti-border security now. Mr. Build the Wall does not want legislation passed that in some instances, would literally shut down the border. And Trump is actively taking credit for attempts to block this bill, a bill that is realistically tougher than any immigration legislation he got passed during his entire administration. My guess is that he feels safe doing this because he knows his base is not going to research anything. They're just going to go off of what he says. For centrists who are not part of the red hat world, this may have actually been an incredibly smart move for the Democratic Party. Because without Trump, it probably won't get passed. But now it exposed the Republican Party plan when it comes to immigration. It illustrated very clearly that they don't actually care about the border, that that's just something they made up to appeal to people who live in Illinois. Okay. Wall Street billionaire Clifford Asnes is mocking Trump and calling him a rhino over Trump's pledge to bar Nikki Haley donors from MAGA World. It is worth noting that Clifford is a Nikki Haley donor and just is like, yeah, we don't care. Okay, moving on to cultural news. Reporting suggests that about 1 in 10 are refusing to restart making student loan payments. Unsurprisingly, right-wingers are coming out of the woodwork to come up with ways to force them to. And there is a novel new approach being proposed, which includes layaway for college. Okay. Environmental news. The internet found out that alligators stick their noses through ice, like when a pond or something freezes over, and it just went viral, and now there's a whole bunch of questions about whether or not that's true in the inbox. Yeah, alligators do that. They can survive pretty much anything. I mean, they're a dinosaur. Just look at it that way. Okay. There was a cold water coral reef discovered off of the eastern United States. It's huge. By huge, I mean like the size of Vermont. It's huge. So there's probably going to be a lot more coming out about that. It's also very deep. This isn't something you're going to be snorkeling to go see. But it's big, and it's apparently a pretty big habitat as well. Okay, oddities. Explicit AI images of Taylor Swift spread across Twitter. The incident has led to calls from politicians and other celebrities to criminalize that kind of image production. It is worth remembering that the outrage and all of the animosity that is being directed towards Taylor Swift did not actually start because she started dating a football player. It started because she told young people that they should vote. It is worth remembering that. If you want to know why the right wing is going after her, that's why. It doesn't have anything to do with football. It started before then. That's just a convenient excuse to whip up the base. Okay, and let's see. Q&A. There's only a couple. Thanks for answering my fun Jeep question. I just watched your video of the U.S. leaving the Middle East, and you mentioned they wanted to go to Africa instead, given the state the U.S. is leaving the Middle East in, and its hand in destabilizing the region. I'm concerned about that. If you have family in Africa, you should be. My question is, with all the issues and massacres going on in Africa right now, that has been mostly ignored by the media, not to mention China's presence over there already, do you think the U.S. presence there will help or hurt the people of Africa? Also, will China view the U.S. presence in Africa as a challenge in any way? And they're already there. Are we in a near-peer contest? Yes, near-peer contest, normal Cold War stuff. Will it help or hurt? It's going to be a mixed bag. Some places will be helped, some places will be hurt. It really is that simple. Okay, so that looks like it. I thought that was 2 questions. It's just one. All right, so there's a little bit more information, a little bit more context, and having the right information will make all the difference. Y'all have a good day.